Welcome to Nightchild Talks Prince, uncut and unscripted. Welcome back to Nightchild Talks Prince. Lord. What a mess. As you may have read, there's been a lot of talk about Prince and this new Netflix documentary. Where do we begin? Basically, at the moment, there's a stalemate. Prince's estate have said they will not sign off on the current Netflix documentary made by Ezra Edelman. Basically, he has made, he's a famous director, obviously directed the O.J. Simpson documentary, and he has made a 9-hour Prince documentary, basically in a series, so I presume like maybe 45 minutes or an hour for each episode. Originally, it was agreed that it would be 6 hours, but he has delivered 9 hours, and he was given full artistic control, and he's apparently not interested in a truncated version of the film. He's shown some of his close friends the film, he's happy with the film, that's what he wants to do. However, the Prince estate have said they're not happy with it. Now, at first we thought, is this a kind of, a money thing? Is this the fact they're getting 9 hours instead of the agreed 6, they want some more money? But then it turned out that perhaps it wasn't, which is interesting because in a lot of press and a lot of articles, they reported that the estate were unhappy with what they called, quote, inaccuracies about Prince. And that's quite interesting. So we thought, well, is there a few little things they want tweaked? What's the difference? Obviously, this is further complicated because Prince's estate is essentially split into two, the family. And you've got kind of, Charles Spicer and Londell Macmillan. And it's really interesting. An insider, they don't tell anybody who that insider is, but they say the insider says that the estate as a whole is, quote, incredibly nitpicky, as it is the executive's job to protect Prince's legacy with kid gloves. You never saw Prince release anything subpar. Everything was carefully curated and fine-tuned. The estate still holds that high standard, our source explains, and states that the project currently does not accurately portray the legendary Prince. Now, this is interesting because the problem with this is this isn't just a documentary. This is holding up a lot of work. There's certain agreements in place, agreements that were made before, Charles Spicer and Londell Macmillan were on board. These were made a while ago, back in, I think, 2018. And basically, there's a lot of things that Netflix have the exclusivity to. Standards, sort of special, deluxe versions have to basically kind of be authorised in a sense by them. They have to agree that it's not taking away from their documentary. And if this is holding everything up, this is why it's a bigger problem. If this was just a documentary, then fine, you can discuss the best way to approach it. But this is holding up lots of releases and lots of things that can't be done. This was further complicated because Charles Spicer tweeted. He has since removed the tweet. He's done a kind of Prince tweet and delete. But this is what Charles Spicer, who represents, a part of the Prince estate, said in his tweet. He said, the length of, the documentary, the length has nothing to do with it. It's straight trash. Basically, he's put a picture of a waste paper bin, so straight trash or straight garbage, whatever way you want to take that. So basically, the length has nothing to do with it. It's straight trash. We have a duty to honour and protect his legacy with a story that fairly shows his complexities as well as his greatness. And then he's put, and this is probably the most interesting part of the tweet, hashtag no 9-hour hit job. So hashtag no 9-hour hit job is basically saying this documentary is a hit job. It's a kind of tabloidy, almost I'm putting words into his mouth, but it's a kind of, it's portraying Prince in a certain light. This is interesting because obviously Ezra is a very respected documentarian. He's held in high regard. And it comes down to, I suppose, who do you believe? There are those people. The debate online has been fascinating because loads of people have said, well, I want to see this documentary, warts and all. I want to see the whole of Prince Don't give me some sanitized hagiography of sort of some kind of like puff piece where it is portrayed as some kind of perfect being. Don't give me that. Give me the truth. But then other people say, but if you're coming at it from a kind of sleazy, tabloidy aspect, is that good? And they haven't mentioned what it is. And it was interesting because the first people said, well, what's the problem? Is it sort of, is there focus on relationships with younger women? Is that what it is? Is there focus on addiction issues? And they could obviously talk wider about addiction issues in the United States and elsewhere. I mean, the United States, opioid addiction is a huge, huge thing. But the interesting thing about that is other insiders, and again unnamed, have said, oh no, it's not about relationships with younger women. It's not about anything sexual. It's not about addiction issues. It's something else, which really confuses me. So they're saying it's not about, any controversy in any relationships, anything like that. It's not about the addiction issues, which inevitably they will mention at some point and obviously towards the end. And I don't know how salacious they'll get. I mean, there's a way of talking about addiction without going into kind of every single medication or every single thing found at Paisley Park or every single aspect of his life. But there's a way to do it in a respectful way. But the insiders are saying it's not that. It's something. It's other thing. It's the tone. It's almost the way it's been approached. Now, of course, we have to take all this at face value. We don't know really what's going on because it's a weird situation. Because Netflix said, basically Netflix have reportedly paid $8 million for this. The estate is saying, well, we agreed to 6 hours. You wanted 9, and we're not happy with it. And the situation is the estate have to agree to sign it off. So at the moment, they're in a stalemate. So the only options, I suppose, are Ezra re-edits it, which he's apparently not interested in doing. He's made his documentary. This is what he wants to do. He doesn't want to change it, which, you can understand when someone's made something, they feel that's reflective of what they wanted to say. Or the estate buy it back, but then if the estate buy it back, they're going to have to pay Netflix a lot of money. I mean, not only the $8 million, presumably they've spent a certain amount on recording it all in, I don't know, it could cost $10 million, who knows, after lawyers get involved and whatever. If the estate hold on also, does this stop other releases? I mean, we've heard nothing this year about a Purple Rain Deluxe, we've heard nothing about, lots of other things being released, nothing sort of hugely significant in terms of Super Deluxes this year or anything like that. So just hold everything up. I mean, I don't mean this disrespectfully, but I am so sick of this all being about lawyers and legal protests and problems. I totally sympathise, with the concept of protecting Prince's legacy. God knows. We don't want something to happen where it's a hit piece, where it's deliberately designed to kind of rake over stuff and not focus on the music. I want to focus on his whole life, because Prince wasn't just the music, the philanthropy, there's lots of other things. He was a human being. He was flawed like every human being, and he was fascinating. But on the other hand, we don't want, some kind of thing that isn't realistic and doesn't reflect him. Do you know what? It's really difficult. Without seeing this documentary, it's so hard to know. I mean, some of Ezra's friends have seen it, but I honestly think if 100 Prince fans could go to Paisley or somehow just see this documentary and just see what is the attitude in which it's portrayed, what is the way in which it's presented, and make a decision that way, because without seeing it, it's difficult. This could be a fair representation of Prince. There may be things that may be uncomfortable, but it represents him fully, completely as a complicated human being, as we all are. We're all contradictory. We all have flaws. We all have secrets and vices and struggles. It could be that. Or, as Charles Spicer said, it could be a hit job. It could be deliberately designed to kind of be as provocative, as sensationalist, as tabloidy as as it can be. It's so difficult to tell. I mean, it may not. It may be that the estate are happy with 6 or 7 hours of it, maybe, or 8 hours of it. Maybe it's just 1 hour that's causing the issue. Do the estate want to bring it back in house and say, well, we'd rather do it. We'd rather release it. The thing is, at the moment, it's a mess. It's a mess. I mean, obviously, the estate are dealing with a contract they didn't make, but ultimately, this has to resolve because otherwise it's just holding up so much print stuff. There's so many things that can't be released until, because Netflix obviously say, well, we want to have the exclusivity, we've got the contract, we want it to be on people to watch our thing. And also it works, a documentary works, because if you show clips of unreleased songs, people want those songs. If you show unreleased projects, people want those projects. And when a Netflix documentary goes out, imagine how many people would buy, a new released Prince projects if they coincided it with a Netflix documentary, the interest in Prince, the chance to really launch lots of Prince projects and kind of get the public zeitgeist, because this is going to reach a lot of people who aren't Prince fans per se. This is going to reach people who don't know huge amounts about Prince, who are aware of him but don't know the hits, maybe, possibly, or not even that. And this is going to shape how people think, because Netflix is probably the biggest streaming platform on the planet, and people are going to take their idea of Prince from this documentary. And so this is a key thing that could shape the narrative for years to come. So they want to get it right, but at the moment, we don't know who to trust. We don't know, is it as provocative and as kind of unfair as the estate are saying, or is this just a negotiating tactic to try and get more control over it, or to get it back in-house because they want to do it? Or is it something else? I mean, at the moment, it's a stalemate. One of them will have to blink. Either, Netflix has to walk away and say, right, you have it, but it's going to cost you 10 million. Or the estate say it's okay. Or Ezra re-edits it, which he's apparently not interested in doing. It's a mess. It's just the frustration. We just don't need this. We need an amazing documentary, but we don't want it to be horrendous. I mean, there's lots of people interviewed for this documentary, and there's been, I think, without speaking for them, I think Kat Glover and her manager weren't happy with some of the ways it was going. There's been comments made that it was sort of heading in a certain direction. They sort of haven't been totally explicit, but basically it's heading in a certain direction, like they wanted to get certain aspects out, and they didn't feel comfortable with it. So it's difficult to know what that is. I mean, obviously with documentaries, there's the truth and there's the truth. I mean, you can view different things in different ways. I don't know, but it's a mess. I'm sorry if I rambled on. I do apologise. I just wonder what you think. What needs to happen here? We need to get over this. We need to move on. We need to get either the documentary made or not made, or something has to happen, because this is holding up everything else. But at the moment, would you be happier to have a warts and all documentary out there that possibly portrays Prince in a bad light, or would you rather have something that portrays him accurately, or would you rather just have something that portrays the music and stick to that, or something else? What would you say is the best way to approach this? I mean, is this a case of, this is made, Ezra's shown his friends and family this 9-hour series. He's shown them, so it's out there. Not out there, but people have seen it. It's so difficult, and will that ever leak, the original version? Who knows? It's just a mess, because at the moment now we're going to have more lawyers, more arguing, and you've got the estate now taking on Netflix or trying to come to some agreement, and I don't know how it works. I don't know what the legal strategy is, but if the estate doesn't approve it, what happens? Do we just stay there forever? Are we going to be talking about this in a year's time, 2 years' time? I don't know. This is a big year. We've heard from the estate this is a big year, the 40th anniversary of Purple Rain. And this is where we are. Anyway, I'm sorry, I probably didn't make much sense. But just let me know your thoughts, because I don't know. I don't know whether to feel angry that we're spending all this time with lawyers and arguing and problems with this. I don't know whether to feel happy that someone's standing up for Prince and saying, you're not doing this right, you're not showing Prince in an accurate portrayal of who he is. I don't know if it's a case of the documentarian Ezra saying this is closer to the truth of who Prince was, all these things taken into account much more, but you don't like it because it's not showing him as a perfect human being, but showing him as a complex human being. I don't know whether to feel just demoralised by the fact that we're not talking about the music again. I just don't know. I really don't know. I must apologise for being away as well. I've been just diving into the Prince vault because this is where I'm finding joy and solace, and just listening to the music and going away on my own journey and putting my headphones on like it used to be and just listening to the music. And that's just given me so much pleasure, so much joy. It's like we have that and no one can touch that, and that's just incredible. His live shows, his studio recordings, and the joy that brings. Well, you can't beat that. You just can't. Hopefully I'll see you very soon. Goodbye.